I am your host. This is Kitchen Table News, and I am your host, Professor Tuck. We have got some stories on the horizon. I talked to someone that I know experienced the power outages in Europe, so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the DOJ and how it's moving to create homeless camps. If you've been following me for a while, I've been talking about that. Now the DOJ is starting to do that. We're going to talk about that. So if you're homeless or on the verge of being homeless, this might be something you want to pay attention to. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what's going on with the trade war, not only with the supply chain, but what's also happening with banks, because UPS and another company are starting to scale back. And so that's something that we need to be thoughtful of and to be aware of. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? First, I want to talk about the power outages. Now, I'm going to have him on as a guest on Saturday because he's over in Spain. Actually, I think he's in Portugal. So I'm going to end up doing an interview with him. We're going to do it early morning because of the time difference. Because like at 8 a.m. my time is like 5 p.m. his time, and so he's got a family and everything, so we're gonna do it like that. It will be homeless entrepreneur because that's who I work with, and so you'll get to see him. And for those of you that are looking for solutions to avoid homelessness, he will be a good resource for you. What's up, Kung Fu? um, I know I saw Beth in here as well. Beth, Occult, Kung Fu. Okay, perfect. um, so with that being said, I asked him what happened, and he said basically around noon he was at a coffee shop and everything, all the lights went out. At first they thought it was just something localized, and then they thought it was on the block, and then they realized and they were hearing through the grapevine that the whole country was out. Now there was speculation of a cyber attack. There was speculation that it has to do with them on April 16th going to 100% renewable energy, and that the power grid crashed. All of it is speculation and propaganda at this point. Nobody really knows what's going on, and that's from local sources on the ground. But I asked him some quick questions just to kind of get an idea of how people reacted, and asked him what his opinion was. He thought that at first he thought, it may be a cyber attack, but he's also got somebody that he knows that works for the power plants, and a pigeon took out all of the northeastern grid of Spain. So it is possible for something like that to happen. So he's if that isn't what happened, which this was too widespread to be just like a pigeon in a in a whatchamacallit, a pigeon in one of their generators or something. So his speculation is that this was a test because over the last couple of months they've been getting alerts telling them to prepare for war and things like that. So they wanted the people to kind of get an idea of what's happening. So you got the boiling frog effect. Let's keep exposing it to them so when the real thing happens, no, everybody's already used to it. It's not going to create hysteria, because the power was out for 21 hours. And one of the questions that I asked him was if the was what was the people's reaction like? And he's like, dude, for the first 24 hours, everything was able to remain calm because people were looking at their phone, hoping to get signal, hoping to get back to work, hoping to get connected back to their lives, because everything is on their phone. Well, people were holding out hope. And so he said it was a good thing that it came on less than 24 hours, because in his opinion, he thinks that after 72 hours, just the complete disconnect and the hysteria. Think of it like somebody grabs your phone and runs off with it and has all of your banking information. And so this is something that as a prepper, this is a case study that we can that we can kind of get an idea of what's going to happen. So if there's ever mass outages, like mass power or power outages, and it's not due to weather, it's just something random, after, because the thing is there's still some infrastructure if it's random. This was complete blackout, all electronics, all cell towers, everything completely shut down. Okay, we're talking about complete blackout, like an EMP hit. Okay, so the thing that is a much different come from than, oh well, we just had snow and ice storms here in Dallas, and now we've got everything that just, you know, broke down because the infrastructure is old and not maintained well, plus the extreme weather and everything else like that. And people will react differently to that than a mass blackout, because with a mass blackout, um, people have no hope of getting connected, at least with something like a weather related outage. You know, cell towers and stuff like that are still operating, so people can still get their dopamine fix, keep their connections, talk to their clients, do their business, whatever it is that they need, that they want to use their internet connection for. um and so if you take that completely away for 3 days, in his speculation, it would be like mass food riots. So just be aware of this as something on the side. Yes, people may go crazy over no food, but people will also go crazy over no internet, no connection, no digital connection, because we're so dependent on it that it just, yeah, this is something that you should definitely be aware of, and think about how to prepare for. And like, this is something that not even a Faraday cage would help you with, because yeah, your electronics may work, but unless it's all localized, then it really doesn't matter, because you have no connection to the outside world, because even the cell towers are gone. And I think that this is something that most people don't really take into account, because they expect infrastructure to stand up. Infrastructure will stay up in some areas and go down in other areas. And so you need to be able to know how to survive without your phone, without internet connection, going back to pre 2000 era. Okay. And so for some of you that are older like me, you guys are okay with that. And even me, if I were to lose my phone, I'd have a conniption fit, because it's got my banking, it's got my personal information, it's got everything on it, because that has become our digital wallet. And that's just kind of the way that the world is going. And so as we become so dependent on it, therefore it also becomes so much more detrimental. But that even means that you couldn't do online banking either. You can't go to the ATM. You can't go into the teller and take anything out, because once it's all down, because it's all computerized, it doesn't matter whether or not you're computerized. Your bank and all the institutions that you use are computerized. And so therefore you won't have access to your funds. You won't have access to any of that stuff. And so that's something to be thoughtful of if the grid goes down, especially if we experience an internal civil war. If you're watching my series, where something along, I'm actually talking about that. And tomorrow, part 4 of the five-part series will be being released, and I've even created a playlist for it if you want to watch it from beginning to end. Okay, so let's go through, get your questions, and then we're going to talk about homelessness and the economy, because they're one and the same, especially the way that the DOJ is moving. So let's look here. All right. So what's up, Occult Beth, Kung Fu? Hey, what's up, Edward? Okay. What's up, Rebels? Okay. Occult. Plasma Hole. I like that answer. Or prepping the people. Okay. Yeah, well, that was his speculation, because of the whole, oh well, we're already being told to prepare for war, to prepare for hard times. Europe is getting prepared for a war with Russia, and within the next couple of years it's going to take off, but they need to get the people conditioned for it and stuff like that. So it becomes a mass psychological operation from the government level. And the same thing's happening with us in this push for China, this push for Iran, and this push for Russia. Okay, now just because we have a change in administration, our focus has been taken away from Russia, letting Europeans deal with Russia while we go deal with China on the back end. And therefore you have the Russians completely surrounded, and therefore they lose, and America remains the sole superpower. Okay, so that's yeah. Operation Curious to Go, Cyber Zombies. Yes, evening, Professor. What's up, Tommy? Um, I'm so proud of you. Keep up the shows. Will do, man. This is user funded. I have two options. Either I let the sponsors and the advertisers tell me what I can say, or I'm funded by you, the users or the viewers, and you guys give me the autonomy to speak and think freely without fear of censorship. So that's those are my options, and just that's kind of how it works. So those of you that are have memberships on either here or Patreon, thank you very much. You make this possible. What's up, Edward? Okay. Beth, okay. All right. So no questions about this. I explained it pretty well. All right. Let's talk about the DOJ and its push to homelessness. And this is what's really scary, is that the DOJ put a pause on all of its grants that it was giving out to homeless services, which was about $800 million. That $800 million was put in suspension and no reason was given. And then they just randomly reinstated it. But then the DOJ puts out a letter to a bunch of people. I think it's actually 8 people. Or no, a bunch of people asking 8 questions and how the DOJ should deal with it. But they're not asking the people that actually know what's going on. They're asking people who are so far removed in fantasy land. And one of the things that the DOJ is wants to force, because apparently this is part of Project 2025, which I did not know, but I was warned about this a year and a half ago, November of 2023, when I was hopping trains with Slack and Fishbones, when we were in Atlanta, when we were just outside, we were in South Atlanta. When we were there, that was when a friend of mine told me that beware, because they're about to put homeless in camps. And so I've talked about it several times. I've talked about how Trump wants to do it. I've talked about how we could have that happen, because this is, as we hear the stories from World War II, and then they came for this group and I said nothing. And they came for this group and I said nothing. They came for this group and I said nothing. They came for me and there was no one left. Okay, this is the beginning of that moment. They come after the homeless because right now the attitude is screw the homeless. Okay, everybody hates the homeless because they are portrayed as drug addicts. Why? Because that's how the NGOs get funding, and they need the drug addicts so that they can, line their pockets and not provide any solution to the problem. So therefore, they, like I've said before, they make us their public whipping boys so that they can line their pockets while using us as the scapegoats, as if we are the problem. Instead of actually trying to fix the problem, they just want to perpetuate it and allow it to continue to happen. In many instances, you will have gang leaders that influence these not-for-profits for whatever reason, because how they affect the homeless, and for them to be able to operate they have to assimilate some of the control to these gangs. And then what they're going to do is all they're worried about is lining their pockets. Oh, look how many people we helped. Aren't we so good? You didn't help anybody. You just got funding for all these different things that kind of help people sustain, but didn't do anything. And so now what they want to do is they're trying to figure out ways to use legislative power. And Donald Trump actually talked about this. He talked about this several months ago. One of the things that he said was, well, we're not going to just round them up and put them in camps. We're going to use the full extent of the law to sweep these people up off the streets, because this is a double-edged sword. As the economy collapses, as we either deal from right now, you've got a 50-50 chance of your job being here in 2 years. You're either going to get caught by one of 2 major things that are going on right now: the cause and effect from the trade war, which causes downsizing, because we're hearing that right now Amazon is putting the when you go and you check out and you buy Chinese goods, it's telling you how much that tariff is, so that you can yes, you did hear that right, Beth. They're telling everybody how much the tariffs are causing, which is making the administration look bad, and so now they're getting pissed off about it. UPS is figuring out ways to be able to keep their business and circumvent a lot of these tariffs by routing it through other countries in the same way China was doing it. Okay, routing it through other countries so that they can lower the duties, and then you don't actually have to pay the duty until it finally gets to the States in its final destination before it goes domestic. At that point in time, you pay the final duty, because they're doing all this stuff, and they're actually offering consulting to businesses to teach them how to get around this whole trade tariff thing, and still get goods and manufacturing out of China. Because the thing is, even the business community is revolting against Donald Trump. Okay, and this is something that is happening across the board. They're saying that 30 to 60% of all shipments that are coming into LA right now have been canceled. A lot of ships have been turned around. Ships are now, in order to keep prices from plummeting because of the consequences from the trade war, is that they are now going with lighter loads, so that they can keep charging the same premium and just keep going that way, so that they can keep everything going. And everything's been moved from our trade route between us and China to different trade routes, which means to get those ships back over here is going to take several months for them to retool if they decide they want to come back, because then we're going to have to pay a huge premium. And just like they called it the Hoover Depression, we're going to call this the Trump slump. Okay, and I'm hoping if this goes as sideways as I think it will, I hope that the term Trump slump actually picks up. I don't know if it's been said already, but I like it. I think that would truly depict the cause and effect, because you're either going to lose your job either to the trade war, or you're going to end up losing your job to automation. And so you've got a 50-50 chance that your job is still going to be there in 2 years for one of those two reasons, which means we could see 90 to 100 million people homeless. And then what Donald Trump wants to do in order to be able to save the cities, because the cities, in order to retain value, to maintain scarcity and all this other stuff, to be able to keep their shiny city on the hill so that they can attract business, because they're not worried about the people, they're worried about tax revenue and how they can line their damn pockets. And so therefore all of their customers and constituents are being shipped off because they're no longer useful to the system. And so therefore only those who can pay to play in the system will be allowed to participate in the system. The rest will be sent to camps. Sorry you lost your job to the trade war. Sorry you lost your job to automation. Sorry you lost your job because of the consequences of government policy and not being well thought out when there were other viable alternatives on the table that were proposed. And this is just absolutely asinine. Donald Trump in a single presidency will end up doing more damage, not only to the economy, but to the distrust. Because what happens if 100 million people go homeless? Let's say 30 million of them end up living with friends and family. Another 20 million manage to have a little bit in savings to where they buy a piece of land. Okay, so now we've got 50 million people that are homeless. How many people do you think it's going to take, okay, for there to be a civil war? Critical mass is 3%, and 3% of the 350 million population is somewhere around 9 to 10 million. So we've already got 50 million people out of there. If we have 20% of those people actually decide to rise up and revolt and to start pushing back, then that allows habeas corpus to be suspended. And not only does that allow habeas corpus to be suspended, but that also allows for and that allows them to detain you. So all they can detain you. Oh, you look like you're an immigrant, so therefore we're going to ship you off to this detainment. Oh, you look like you're homeless. Oh, you don't have this. You don't have this. And then with AI as the backbone to assist in the enforcement of this, do you not expect some form of revolt? Would you stand for this, especially after you lost everything? What do you have left to lose? The most dangerous man in the world is a man who has nothing left to lose. Okay. And at that point in time, 50 million people will have nothing left to lose. And so the consequences of these two actions will result in this, which is why I'm talking about about the soft or civil war that we're in right now, because this could turn hot very quick, especially considering the Occupy people had Obama, the Tea Party people had Donald Trump. And both were destructive in their own ways. Both were divisive in their own ways because they were both sensationalist candidates. And so between those two presidents, they ripped this country apart. By the way, it's down in my merch shop. If you want to get off platform, because eventually I have an 18-month plan to get deplatformed off of YouTube. Okay. For this very reason. All right. Between censorship, AI monitoring, AI turning into a religion, the craziness of politics and everything else like that. I need to have, if I'm going to survive the future, if you're going to survive the future, we're going to have to form communities outside of social media that are like private places where we can all meet up. So things like my website, aihomesteader.com, or even over on Patreon, because this is something that as surveillance gets going and as there's more and more surveillance, this is something that you are going to have to really think about. Okay. So before we even go any deeper into this, and as you guys can see, I'm kind of wide awake today. After I got back from the walk into town, man, I felt so much better in the sense that I got some of that energy out to burn it out, so I wasn't so anxious. And yeah, I actually had my energy. So I think loss of energy is more of being anxious because of what happened last week. It's going to take a while for me to get over it, but there is time. So let's talk about this. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Evening. Okay. I'm so proud of, okay. Da-da. Okay. We've said hi to that. Gang members influencing. Yes, you did hear me right. Tuck, have you ever looked at what's going on in Kensington being an example of Kensington? Not exactly sure, Kung Fu. You'd have to email me the article. Let's see. Should we call homeless camps Trump districts? I don't know. That might be, either that or call it a Trump camp, because the thing is there is the thing. After Amazon started doing what they're doing, putting the tariff prices, listing that as part of your price. What the White House came out and says, "Oh yes, Amazon is working with a Chinese propaganda firm out of China," and it's like, well, all of the business leaders are turning on him because there were viable alternatives to reshore what we needed, critical infrastructure. There were viable opportunities, but not very many people, or Donald Trump didn't even listen to it. And he's aware of what he's doing, but I think that he's taking a gamble and he's losing. The reason why he's losing is because it worked the first time around and he thought he could come in and do the same thing and just be a little bit more extreme. But the thing is, everybody's so hip to his style. It's like a bully. Once you've had a few run-ins with them, you know how to deal with them, and you know how to just like, okay, well, we're going to go over here and play on our end of the playground. You stay over there. And so therefore the community ostracizes the bully. And so Donald Trump, instead of coming in and procuring relationships with our allies to stop trading with China and start moving manufacturing to other places, even if it was outside of the United States, but move our manufacturing to other places to reduce our dependence and their dependence, therefore rebalancing China without ever really having to raise tariffs to 145% or 245%. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that this is being allowed to happen. And then you got people like my old man. He loves Donald Trump like a god. And yeah, it doesn't matter, like, screw the Chinese. It doesn't matter if no jobs come here. It doesn't matter if the jobs go to India, as long as we're putting the screws to China. Because it becomes mob mentality. And this is the one thing that Donald Trump is known for. He was a really, really good a reality TV show because of how erratic he is and how he goes and he's big and he's grandiose. And in that same, that brings in viewers. But when you're running a country, that makes everybody want to run away because now they no longer can trust you. And this is really why we're getting de-dollarized. This is why the world is going the other way. This is why China can get US dollars cheaper than the United States. 3.9 freaking percent is what China got $2 billion in US bonds. So they still have to pay it back in dollars, but they put it out on the international market and got 3.9% because there was such a demand to buy Chinese yuan compared to buying American stuff. But we won't hear that here in the United States. We won't hear that at all. Okay, so if any of you guys want me to respond to your comments, make sure that you put them in all caps. If you really want to make sure that I get your response, go ahead and put in a super chat. Okay, and a super chat entry tonight will get you an entry into our raffle. So on the first of every month, what's up, Bucknut? Oh, nice to see you. Okay, so the raffle on the first of the month goes like this. So first prize gets gets a gets a membership to Sovereign, or not to Sovereign Operator, to Inner Circle, plus a digital bundle, pictures from the trail that I've uploaded. Second prize will be an unreleased pictures from the trail. This month I'm releasing the Washington DC pictures from last summer when I was in Washington DC. And then third prize is a 1 month membership to Digital Homesteader. So if you get in the raffle right now, it's just me has 10. I'm just gonna give the big ones. I've got them all written down, who's got what, but it's just me has 10. Matthew the King has 7. Rails has 4, and then we've got several other entries that are 1 and 2. You can get them by either doing memberships or by doing super chats. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, let's see here. Should we call the home? Okay, then individuals, once habeas corpus is taken away, and maybe like the movie Running Man, food riots and such. Nice mug, dude. Thanks, Beth. Most fuck day ever. I'm at boiling point. Full fentanyl. Oh, Kensington. Oh, yes, New Jersey. Okay, yes. Okay, now I know Kensington. Okay, once you made the fentanyl thing, that made sense. Okay. Yeah, I've seen it. That's crazy. Like, are you on it, or are you just seeing it? Because if you're on it, get some help. If you're seeing it, um, if you're on a fixed income, go look at open air properties. It's under Stephanie in the description. You can find a property for a couple $100 a month. Pay, just depending upon what your retirement or pension is. You can move out on a piece of land for about $200 a month. Okay, so that is a possibility for you. If you want to get out of it, because you're going to have to get out of the city eventually if you want to survive. Clean drug using supplies provided to the intravenous users is at least the thing I heard about in Kensington. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Seeing a few. Okay. We have North, South, Central America to trade with. China has bought the biggest supply of gold in the world. Yes, but Patriot, another thing that you got to realize is that the global South is so frustrated with the United States that they prefer to do business. You realize Brazil, the power player for the global South for the South America, and Mexico have both joined BRICS. Brazil is a founding member, and Mexico has applied to join, along with other countries such as Canada and France, and I think even the UK are all applying to join BRICS because they all want to get away from the dollar because they're tired of America. And Donald Trump is showing what has made America, not only what made America great, but the ugly side of what made America great, which is forcing everybody else to harm themselves for our own benefit because they're afraid of military or other interventions that would put them at more risk. So therefore, they capitulate, thinking that like as someone with Stockholm syndromes, they just kind of sit there and capitulate, hoping that it pacifies their captors to look the other way instead of focus on them. And so the rest of the world, they're trying to get away from all of this. Okay, Stephanie just might be my saving grace. You should check it out, Captain. Tell her I sent you. Does Olight have solar recharging flashlight? Yes, they do. Bucknut, if you want to put your affiliate link in for this one right here, as you see, Beth, it's a USB-C, and as you see, this is, that's how bright it goes. Okay, so, and it's just a twist on and off. But if you're looking for something like that through Olight, Bucknut, put your affiliate link in the description. So Bucknut buys such a crap ton of this that this is how we help him out, by sending business his way for other stuff that he has affiliate links with. So yeah, if you want, yeah, they are quality and great customer lifetime warranty, but you pay for it. I, you know what? There's something like this. I've looked at it. I almost bought the orb this month, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, you know what? This strip is just good enough for me. I know, and I love this strip, Bucknut. If you want to put the affiliate link for this Olight strip, so that when you see the color in the background, it's an Olight strip. And honestly, other than this flashlight, because I have two of them. I have another green one that's around here somewhere, but it's a darker green. Between this and the Olight strip, I prefer the Olight strip over this because it lights up my whole place and it comes with its own adhesive. So, but anyways, yeah, you guys, if Bucknut puts his affiliate links for that stuff in there, we will we'll definitely yeah, you can definitely send some business his way. So you're a garden out there. I'm trying to. Yeah, it would be groovy. Okay. Yeah, the quality great. But that's the overall thing. Hold on, okay, we're halfway through, which means I'm past like the whole YouTube monetization stuff like that. Okay, let's hope I don't get throttled back. But if I do get throttled back, I would really ask for you guys to share this stuff if you think this is valuable and somebody should know about this, because YouTube wants happy, fluffy, and wants you to believe the narrative, not really see what's going on. All social media is becoming like this, and with AI being the backbone of most of your social media now, including Google and YouTube. Yeah, you know, if you find something that is very, very eye-opening, you should probably share it, because those creators are probably suffering because of the new censorship. Part of what the DHS said last November was that they needed to keep an eye on what they call potential groups to be dissenters, such as preppers, self-sufficiency people who are off grid. And so that's part of the reason why they're getting these drones, and they want to they're kind of going out there and they're looking for people. And especially if Trump gets what he wants, you know, he could classify me as homeless, take me off my land, and end me in a damn camp. Depends upon how they actually do it. It all depends. I've got a good enough resume behind me. I'm a lot safer than most people, but those of you that are homeless that have to deal with this is really going to hurt you. Okay, so be very, very thoughtful of this. Now, tomorrow's video is going to be very critical, especially if you get caught up in this great dispossession, of the, let's say 50 million people that actually make it out on the streets. You should listen to my video tomorrow with intent. Bring your notebook, because I'm giving you actionable intelligence, stuff that I have done myself, for my own anonymity, because being in Silicon Valley, I learned a lot from a lot of these clandestine guys that retire there, and they show me some stuff. So let me show you something that I use in a pinch if I don't want to identify myself. Okay, you see? Now, I blacked out because I knew I was going to show this, so I blacked out. There's one piece of identifying information that's there, but for the most part, it is my anonymity. So whenever I go in and I get services from, like, this card is from Cincinnati, but this is something I keep as a reminder, a momentum of how easy it is to build a paper deep identity. And that's really what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, is a paper deep identity. That is something that you should really get skilled about. We're probably going to be talking about that a little bit more on Patreon, because I had a CIA profiler teach me some stuff. He was the first one to teach me how to create ghost emails and do some other stuff. He was the reason why I got into the IT field to begin with, is because he was making some promises that if I would have been able to follow through. But when you're dealing with a Rothschild, they're kind of crazy. So yes, I have real ID, but this right here, I don't have ID. I got this. You see what I'm saying? I get to, because here's the thing, you are whoever you say you are. And as long as you've got the paper to prove that you are who you say you are. So for example, Shawshank Redemption, that way I don't have to worry about anything else like that. But Shawshank Redemption is a great example. What did he do? He sent off for a birth certificate and he sent off for a social security card. All they needed was paperwork and documentation because it's a bureaucracy. So they got the paperwork, they got the documentation. You get that sent to you. Now all of a sudden you can go out there and get ID under that identity. Set a birth date for whatever you want to, and you can create that whole identity. And so therefore Shawshank Redemption shows it because that's how he was doing that. And how do you think some of these criminal elements work, as far as identity? How do you think that the NSA and the CIA do their clandestine operations and keep autonomy? Even undercover cops, same damn thing. So these are things that we're going to be talking about in tomorrow's video. But if you get caught up in this, if this really turns south the way that it looks like and the way I've been warned that it is, half this country and the people, I think the half of this country that voted for Donald Trump is going to be the one that ends up getting attacked by Donald Trump, unfortunately. Because there's a lot of people within the homeless community that absolutely love Donald Trump. There are those that are like, screw Donald Trump. But for the most part, everybody loves Donald Trump because of how he is. Okay, so Tuck says prop tax on his property is really cheap. Yeah, $15 a year. Yeah, it's $15 a year, but my land is like $8,000 too. So that'd be great info. Okay. That's why I like these news. They cater to us, the hobo community. Well, I am a hobo by lifestyle. At first, so many people kept telling me that nobody cares that you're homeless. And you know what? They're right. Nobody cares that you're homeless. But the knowledge and the information and the wisdom that you can share from that experience, people value that. And that was the disconnect that I had in the first couple of years that I started doing this. Is I thought that people were following me for one reason when it turns out it's a different reason. And the reason why you guys keep coming back is because of those experiences and the things I got to do and the people I've got to meet. I can paint a much different picture than the narrative that you're being force fed. Like, when they talked about the nuclear football being all over the place, it didn't become like major news till like 2010 or so. I've known about that since about 2004. Okay. There are some things, because people tell me things that I'm not allowed to say because it puts me in danger, that I can't talk about. And I won't talk about it publicly. And there's things that even I won't talk about privately, that you have to be a very close friend for me to trust you to tell you some of these things, because people decide to pass their burden on to me because they see a homeless person, somebody that nobody would believe and think is an absolute nut job, because he's homeless, so therefore he's crazy and he's a drug addict. Therefore, opening you up to getting stories like that and to hearing people, because that's the homeless and the ones that show promise. Those are the ones that end up getting some of the information that nobody else in the world would hear. For example, I'm in Dallas Life Foundation. I'm 21 years old. I'm standing out having a cigarette with a kid who claims to be the next in line for the general and the Mexican mafia. Now, back then, the Mexican mafia was way more feared than it is now. It's now considered like our Italian mafia here in the United States. But he explained to me how they were going to take over the United States. And it's real simple. Get you hooked on drugs, so that therefore when they start coming and taking your land, you're like, okay, because you know that you're getting. And so therefore they create the cartels do that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the whole mission in the community down there in Central and South America that brings all this stuff up here, is we're going to reclaim what was stolen from us, because according to them, it was stolen from them through the Mexican-American War. Okay. So that's just that. I think lots of people are trying to get second passports. for failed buildings ever. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. Okay. It seems like you guys, we've got a good crowd here tonight. We're hitting like 27, 28. That's nice. We want to get up to like 50 and 100. Now I understand what it is that's bringing you in, but I don't want to be giving you a dopamine hit because you don't need the dopamine fix. That's how you're being controlled. I will be doing a video before the end of next week that is going to be talking about that as an agent of control, a way in which you are being groomed so that they can control you and push you along to be a lemming. And if you learn how to detach yourself, I have to detach myself because I have an adrenaline issue. And if I get too anxious, then I become dangerous because, yeah, it gets real scary. And so therefore I stay away from that stuff. And so I don't have to deal with it the way that other people do. And when I have gotten down that rabbit hole, I'll end up in the hospital. So I have to be very careful in the information which I choose because I can't get that. I can't deal with that whole fear-based thing because I don't need to be wanting to crawl out of my skin. It's already uncomfortable enough. So that dopamine fix, you've got to learn to you've got to learn to cut it off. Look at it as an addiction, the same thing as crack or heroin or alcohol. Okay, because it is, and it is anything that you can be addicted to can be used as a tool for control. Okay, whether it be medications, whether it be this fear-based stuff that we have, it doesn't matter. If they can create an addiction, then they can control you. In the same way that give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. Why? Because the thing is, we're addicted to currency and the ability to live and conduct commerce. So therefore, in order to keep our money, we will do whatever you say. Okay, again, it's another form of addiction. Thanks, Grease. All right. Well, I have to. It's the only thing that saved my butt. Um, Well, nobody should ever want to be a lemming. Here, you want to know why I know everything that I know? I'll tell you my origin story that made me, that put me on the path to where you see me today. Okay. In 2000, I had a gun go off on me while I was loading a plane. Okay. And the bullet, basically, it was a late bag, comes out. I toss it up in the pit. I hear a bang. I smell the sulfur, call my supervisor over. We find the bullet hole. We bring out the port police and they file a report, and we ended up opening up the bag. There was 2 bulletproof vests, a 357 and a 22, both loaded, no safety, and the 357 discharged. They ended up finding the bullet in an 18-month-old little girl's diaper bag. Reason why I know about it is because the pilot wouldn't shut up about it. He repeated the story 3 times. I think that was a big factor in a lot of the issues that I've had since then. Okay. And so I did the same thing I did after what happened last week, is I just put myself to work so that I could forget about it, get through what I needed to get through. And then when I had some time to sit back and take a breath, then I would do it. Okay. But 15 to 18 months later, 9/11 happens. I come from 10 generations of military on one side of my family. On the other side of my family, I come from a long line of business owners and military personnel, but it is old money that just passes it down from generation to generation. My mom and her sisters and brother squandered the family wealth. Okay. But from that moment and point in time, because I saw 9/11 as, like, for me, my family was standing on that wall. I had just gotten my medical separation from the Marine Corps, not even 2 years prior. And so, like, I was willing to go put myself on that wall. That should have never happened. And for me, that was a real reality check. And from that point forward, I'm like, I need to understand what's going on. That is my response to major events. If I understand it, then I can understand the bigger picture, what's going on, and I can be prepared for what's coming in the future. And so I've spent since 2001 to this point in time listening to the underground stuff that nobody else really listens to, finding the stuff that nobody really knows about, going to the places that most people have never heard about. and I find this information, I vet it in my own way to check it out and see if there's viability, because I know that a lot of people will do a hysterical spin. And by doing that hysterical spin, that's propaganda. I don't need that bias slant. For the same reason, like the story I tell about Alex Jones and Jesse Ventura on True TV with his conspiracy theory show. He goes out and he goes out and Alex Jones says the government's got a conspiracy to put your feminizing uranium in your water, and they go out and they test all the water and they show the high concentrations of uranium. Yes, this is a government plot to create the fear, to create the hysteria, to to do all that. Well, you know what? I went and I researched it. I found out that it's a natural byproduct of everything. Whether you sweat, you poop, you pee, water going down, there's trace elements of uranium. It's a base element of the whole universe. And what happens is all of our wastewater is getting compiled with our drinking water, putting high concentrations of uranium in our drinking water without us knowing it, not understanding what's going on chemically and biologically as we put our waste into the system, therefore creating a higher estrogen count in boys, which we're now finding out about, and a higher birth rate of females because of this. Now, is this some grand government conspiracy? No, it's gross negligence, it's ignorance. But there are those that want to create that hysteria, and then there are those that don't. And I would rather find out the truth and not be caught in the hysteria than be caught up in the hysteria like Alex Jones and the rest of them. Now, some of this can be somewhat sensational because it's just moving really fast. It's really crazy. It's really scary. It's really new. But we also are taking a level-headed approach, and that's what I'm expecting from you guys. Is I'm trying to attract an audience that is more interested in the truth and true information than just to be caught up in the sensational and the dopamine effects and all the other stuff that comes with the social media addiction. Because you know what, I take time. When I start realizing I can't put my phone down, I put my phone down for about 4 or 5 hours and force myself to do it. And that means even if I don't get any work done, because what that does is that if the separation creates the anxiety, I need to find something else to occupy my time because I'm starting to create too much of a dependency. And if you're not aware of this, because this is why our children are so susceptible, because they're not aware. As adults, we should be aware of our normal habits, and then the habit of like, what happens if I don't have my phone? What happens if I don't have this? And instead of looking at the cause and effect, we just keep playing on our phones going, oh yeah, that's everybody else but me. I'm immune to it because I'm perfect. No, you're not. You're just as susceptible as everybody else. Okay. So we got rain clouds moving in, by the way, guys. All right. Okay, let's see. I heard they're putting estrogen in beer. Anybody else hear that? I've never heard that. I just want a van and my dogs and go, even though I'm a chick. Well, Captain Apana, you can do that. Just make sure you keep some money off to the side for repairs. Because most, like when you're on the streets, you find van lifers that have lost everything because they had that one repair that was too big that they couldn't fix. So make sure you have some money off to the side. Having a van is an expensive lifestyle in the homeless arena. Okay, I agree. Stoned is way better. Alex Jones is fun. Everyone is a better person stoned. Yep. I really am sober when I do this, but actually I've stopped smoking as much. I've probably cut my smokage down by like 60% because I'm so busy. I'm not worried. I'm just, usually that's kind of like something I do when I'm bored and I just kind of want to sit back and relax or something like that. And so, yeah, it just like, as I'm getting my work done, I'm noticing that I'm putting it down, and I'm liking that because what it does is it helps me, remove that dependency because I'm finding other things to occupy my time. Okay. Let's see here. Alex James is fun. Me too, Captain. All right. I'm going to finish this cigarette. If you guys have any questions, put them in all caps or do a super chat. What do a Subway sandwich and a hooker have in common? They both have meat in between their buns. They both offer the cold cut combo. Foot longs. Yeah, go get a Coney. Mm. All right. But hey, if you guys want this cup, I have it down in my merch shop. It's under T Public. If her life was still. Bucknut, I love your comedy. You know, you don't do stand up at all, huh? So, you'd probably be really good at it. Just your little jokes that you got going. Do you feel happier than a year ago? Um, you know what? Here's the thing. I knew a year and a half ago that this whole Trump thing was coming. When I heard what Trump was talking about before the election, I tried saying things and nobody would listen. And you know, he really bothered me because this time around he's a sellout. The first time around he was there for the people. This time it's to stroke his own ego and to get his revenge. It's a strongman tactic. To show that you can't beat me, I can beat you at all costs. And so from that sense, I knew it was coming and I was trying to maneuver myself. And I'm glad I got this property before the DOJ started doing what it's doing, because that's what really that's what was really concerning me, especially the closer we got to the inauguration, because I didn't know how much longer it would be until this started happening. Give it 6 months to a year. By this time next year, you will probably be seeing these homeless camps pop up if the DOJ gets its way. And according to my friend who gave me the warning, the DOJ is going to get its way. And Trump is going to get his way. I don't know how it's going to happen, but there's probably going to be so many homeless from the catastrophes of the economic collapse and the catastrophes of the trade war and everything else that's been going on. Um, yeah, I understand that works in business, but it doesn't always work in international politics. Okay, it works in business. Um, uh, you know what? I, um, his first presidency, I would agree. His second presidency, I don't agree with either one of you on this. I don't. I think that this is a personal vendetta. He feels that he got cheated, and he can do something about it, and so this is what he's doing about it. Is he's being a disruptor, but instead of having, you know, the Trump golden age, we're going to have the Trump slump. You know, that's what's really going to happen, and that's what's going to be scary. At least, and according to, yeah, I'm just going to leave it out. I'll let you guys decide. But all right, guys, tomorrow's live stream will be public. So if you want to show up for tomorrow morning's live stream, come on out. It's supposed to be a sunny day. Well, I might have rain, so I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight. But I feel like his hands were tied back then. Nobody can take advantage of us. Yeah, but the thing is, are they really taking advantage of us, or is it the way the system was designed? And so therefore it's not the countries that are taking advantage of us. It's the people that created Bretton Woods that set this up. Okay. I think that's really, like, if you want to go back, the system was created like this, and it was created for a while. Well, that's fine. We're seeing it from very different from us. Yeah. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're allowed to disagree. I know a lot of you guys like Trump. I have a love-hate relationship with Trump. I would rather have Trump than Kamala, but at the same time, what he's doing is completely against. It's about as bad as Obama going against and being a traitor to the what's it called, movement, to the Occupy Wall Street movement. Okay, it's the same thing. You know, Obama betrayed the Occupy Wall movement because he put corporate interests above the goals of the people that elected him. That's why Bernie caught so much steam, is because the the Occupy movement most likely felt cheated, whereas the Tea Party movement feels vindicated because somebody's standing up there and saying key words, even though they're saying those key words to drum up certain thoughts. You got to look deeper. Oh, we're in talks every day with China. China says we're not talking, and we won't talk until the rhetoric tones down and he drops the tariffs. Then we'll sit back and we'll negotiate. Until then, have a nice day. So who's telling the truth? Who's lying? You can't tell. Oh, I trust Donald Trump. Okay, so then what? Xi Jinping's lying. Okay, I trust Xi Jinping. So that means what? Donald Trump is lying. They both could be lying. They both could be telling the truth. We don't know because we're not the ones doing it, and therefore the thing is, the deal hasn't been made. They're saying, oh, we're going to have a deal. We're going to have a deal. We're trying to get China to come to the table and have a deal. The thing is, they're talking with low-level officials, and the low-level officials that will get him up to Xi Jinping won't put him up there until he meets certain criteria that the above officials have set for him to get passed on up there, because the back channels have already been closed off. China has got a 5-point plan. They're trying to take over trade. They're trying to de-dollarize. They're taking over South China Sea. They want Taiwan. They want to be the trade partner of the world. And so therefore we're having a fight ideologically about it. So the likelihood that Xi Jinping is telling the truth versus Donald Trump is much higher, because statistically, leaders, when speaking on a world stage to the global to the global community, are honest. When they're speaking to their domestic constituents, they generally lie about 60 to 70% of the time. So with that being said, Donald Trump is no different. Donald Trump is telling us domestically, but then when asked by international press corps, he retracts and says, well, yeah, we're having low-level talks right now, which means, yeah, he's talking with China, but he's not talking with Xi Jinping, therefore putting holes in his story, because internationally he tells the truth, but domestically he's not, which is what all leaders do. Does the Trumpster narrate? I don't know. As he has no soul. I don't know. You can stream the audiobook free on YouTube. Okay. Hide your meow meows. Out of the deal. Bucknut got it. Okay. Lucky. I'm looking forward to the crash. Take advantage of the foreclosures and the market crashing. Yeah, you should definitely do that, Bucknut. I mean, because here's the thing, if we go back to a medieval times or a medieval way of doing things, which means that we're going to bring back the caste system, the landowners are the wealthy ones. So if you have a lot of land, then you have the ability to become the next baron. And that's why I want to be able to have, even if 50 acres gives you enough property to be considered, especially in an off-grid area, gives you enough to be able to throw some weight around, because you own 50 acres and that's property tax. And you're a big, especially if you contribute to the local economy by bringing in, let's say, beef or crops or anything else like that, then all of a sudden you get a lot more say in what's going on. And so that's the reason why landowners during medieval times were the ones that really ran the show. They were the business class of today, the corporate elites. But yeah, it was landowners. But it is what it is. I have a tiny spot by Disney. Really? Okay, that's ego. Yes. God bless. Fallon. Gone. Okay. 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 I want to get 5 to 10 acres in a few states: Michigan, Montana, Tennessee, Nevada, Arizona. Well, if you're gonna get land here in Arizona, Stephanie has a 3-acre plot. They're all right next to each other. And that's a really nice plot. I don't know what she would sell the bundle for. I know she's selling them individually, but that video I did of for Stephanie, That was the 3 properties that she has for sale up there. It's just right around the corner from me. I can walk there in less than 10 minutes. So, do I get okay? Rather get with Stephanie. Um, okay. So, bet their property taxes way more. So what if it's $30 a year? Maybe even 35 or $40 a year. Property taxes. Let's see. In Oregon, property taxes on $180,000 house was $900 a year, maybe $1,200 a year, and that was in like 2010. When I a 25-acre plot, 20K near you. Oh, nice. That would be good. That would definitely be good. All right, guys. We it is the end here. I want to say thank you for being here. And I will see you. Better thousand I need room. Yeah. Well, it depends. Build a community around you. I want to be able to have at least 6 people around here. That's my big thing. So undeveloped land is dirt cheap for taxes. Yeah, that's once you start putting things on there, and therefore the appraisal goes up. That's where they make their money. But they make their money on the rise in the appraisal value plus the permits. And then once the permits and the appraisal value become a normal thing, then they no longer then the city goes broke because they're waiting on new revenue, new builds. All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here. I will see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be public. As long as the weather's good, we'll be outside. We'll walk the property, and we'll have a good morning walk and talk. Thanks for being here, guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning.